Ever pinch pennies all year for that one family vacation only to feel the budget blues afterwards? If so, I was just like you. After 3 vacationless years, I stumbled on credit card rewards travel and cracked the code to amazing vacations that I could actually afford.
Welcome to Wonderland on Points. In this podcast, you will discover how opening credit cards strategically can save you thousands on travel. We're not just dreamers anymore. We're 2 adventurous moms turning dreams into reality. Join us as we spill all the points and miles secrets.
And contrary to popular belief, you don't have to spend $1 million to earn 1,000,000 points. Traveling on credit card points isn't reserved for those with overflowing bank accounts. It's for everyday people like you and me, learning to turn routine expenses into free travel.
Consider us your points travel guides. This is Wonderland on Points. Let the adventure begin. Welcome back. Last week, you heard all about the first part of Joe's trip to Universal Studios in Florida, and today we are bringing you part 2 of this special 2-part episode. We also want to hear from you guys, so after you listen to part 2 today, hop on to our Facebook page, find our group, and share any questions that you have about planning a trip to Universal on Points, or if you have been to Universal Studios and have more tips to add to what Joe has said, hop into our Facebook group and share that with everybody because we want you guys to have all the information that you need to plan a fantastic trip to Universal Studios.
And don't forget to check out our brand new website. It is live. We're going to have lots more things coming to that page in the upcoming months. But right now you can find our favorite credit card links and some more fun stuff, some about us. So go ahead and check that out. We would love to see you over there. We also have a link to a credit card consultation. So that's the best place to find that. And now this episode is going to pick up where last week left off. So if you haven't heard part 1, we highly recommend you go listen to that first. And here is the rest of my trip to Universal.
What are some tips for the park itself? So we know it's a theme park. Lines are probably long. Do you have any tips that you realized while you were there with which rides to do first, any strategy like that for attacking the park and getting the most out of your day?
100%. So I think it's important to understand how Universal works. It's broken up into 3 sections. There is regular Universal Orlando, which is, it has things like the Avengers and the Simpsons and like Spider-Man and all of these superhero characters are kind of your basic Universal stuff. They've got the E.T. ride, the Back to the Future ride. Then there is something called Islands of Adventure, which has your Jurassic Park world, and it has your Hogsmeade and that other side of Harry Potter world. In the main part of Universal Studios, it's got the Diagon Alley part of Harry Potter. And then there is Volcano Bay, which we did not do. That is the water park. We left that off. That was additional money. We got the 2-park hopper tickets, which meant we could go back and forth as much as we wanted from Orlando Resorts to Island of Adventure. But they are separate, and there is an additional cost, which was included in the points price I told you. It would have been a little cheaper for us if we had just wanted one park, but we wanted to see everything minus the water park.
Absolutely.
We didn't care about that.
Yeah.
So in understanding how that works, we had kind of a general plan, and I felt like it went really, really well. The first day, we decided to take it easy, get the lay of the land, ride whatever had short lines, which you can download the Universal Studios app and you can see the wait time on every single line. And it also will orient you so you understand where everything is. And that's really important to understand. I was very turned around at first, but I finally got it by the second day. So we just took it super easy. We rode things that we came across as we were walking through that had short lines. We really enjoyed the Mummy. That was our very first ride. I think we waited 10 minutes for that. It was a lot of fun. And then we got an understanding of what the most popular rides were, what had the longest wait times, what people wanted to ride the most. And we made a plan of attack for the second day. So we actually rode a lot of things the first day, but they were none of the majorly popular rides. And we knew day 2 was going to be our day to get there majorly early, be one of the first people in line, run to the ride that we wanted to ride so we could make sure we weren't waiting 2 hours to get on these rides. And that actually worked super, super well. So there's an area outside Universal Studios called City Walk. And it's this massive, massive area with gift shops, restaurants, Starbucks, a donut shop called Voodoo Donuts that has incredible, delicious donuts that I would highly recommend you trying one day. And that area opens way before the theme park, which is super fun. So you can get there and mill around and enjoy your morning and get a coffee way before you ever get in line. Granted, people do start lining up insanely early. We weren't ever the first people in line, but we were able to hop in line our second day after spending time in City Walk early enough to get on some of the more popular rides without waiting more than an hour. One of the tips that I would say is that the wait times were actually never as long as the app said that they were, which was nice.
Oh, that is good to know.
The longest we ever waited for any ride was about an hour and 15 minutes, and that was for Hagrid's motorbike, which is my favorite ride of all time. We also waited on our last day for the Velocicoaster, which is the other most popular ride, and that one was about an hour as well. So those are the two that are like internet viral and always have the longest lines, and for a good reason. They are so fun. But there are so many rides that you're not waiting that long for, especially we were there the first week in June. It wasn't as bad as I thought in terms of people.
Right, being summer, you would think.
Yes, but it was hot as the armpit of hell, as you have
Oh,
said.
yes.
I
Yes.
cannot describe the heat, so I do want to give a few other tips.
Yes, I lived in Florida for a couple years, and I have been to Disney World in July, and it was the hottest week of my life. We've mentioned this on the podcast before. I earned a free trip when I was selling children's books, and when they told us it was in July, I was like, is this a prize or a punishment? Because you should think long and hard before you go to an Orlando theme park in the summer. But just be prepared. Know that it's probably going to rain in the afternoon because thunderstorms come up. And, between getting the fans that go around your necks and the water bottles, we'll hear some of your tips. But definitely think through that and know that you are probably going to be hotter than you think you are.
100%. And actually, it didn't rain the whole time we were there, but I would have welcomed the
Ooh,
rain.
that's lucky.
I know it was very weird, but everyone said it was weird. I would have actually liked some rain. So, in terms of beating the heat and being smart about sunscreen and sun protection, most rides don't allow hats, glasses, anything of that nature. So that's a little bit frustrating. And you can ride almost every ride with a fanny pack that goes around the waist, not the crossbody. It has to be around the waist. If you have it crossbody, they will make you attach it around the waist. I would say 90% of the rides you can do that. There are a few rides that require, as I mentioned earlier, that everything goes in a locker, but those rides provide that locker for free. So if you can fit everything in a fanny pack around your waist, you do not have to keep locking stuff up, which is a total game changer.
And who doesn't love a fanny pack?
Oh, right. So in. So in.
I definitely, okay, with Disney World, and it's a little less with Universal, but with Disney World, everyone gets the matching t-shirts, the matching,
Yes.
That has the name. The whole family has to have coordinating t-shirts.
So cute.
And I definitely, last time we went to Disney World, got on Etsy, shout out to Etsy, which is the greatest place.
Yes.
Fanny packs that had all of our names. Everyone had a fanny pack with I went a little extra on it, I'll be honest, but I love a fanny pack.
You know what? They're so versatile. And in this case, you can put down just about any seat restraint while you have one on. So That made it really easy for us to have everything we needed, our phones and everything. We knew it was safe. We knew we didn't have to lock it up. What I didn't think about was sunscreen. We had checked one bag so we could bring full size of things we needed, but I did not bring sunscreen, which was the craziest thing in the entire universe. So we ended up buying the world's most expensive bottle of sunscreen from the hotel, which was really, really annoying. But what I did have was a little spray travel bottle, which had one of my face toners in it, and it was almost empty. So I dumped it out, which made me a little bit, cringe over wasting a beauty product.
Sad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. But I dumped it out. I added sunscreen and just added like a very minimal amount of water to it so it could shake up and spray. And I carried that thing around
Look
in my
at
fanny pack.
you,
I
sunscreen spritzer.
felt kind of genius because I was like, I can't bring a sunscreen into Universal Studios. It won't fit in my fanny pack. How are we going to be reapplying sunscreen all day? And some of the gift shops do have these tiny tubes of sunscreen for literally like $15,
Oh,
which
I
is
bet.
bananas. So I felt like I really hacked the game there with a travel size sunscreen. If you can find a travel size sunscreen at home for a reasonable price, definitely bring one of those with you and carry it. Also, if I wish we had had a stick sunscreen for our faces, I wasn't in summer mode yet. I wasn't in sunscreen mode.
Right. Yes. Yeah, you were planning this before really we got into summer. That's
Correct.
always the time of year I get burned, when you're
Yep.
just kind of not yet expecting it.
Yep, you just forget that, skin burns in June, especially in Orlando, way, way more than you would think. So that is one. And then in terms of beverages and staying hydrated, there are these Coke refill machines all over the park. It's very well done. And they have ice cold water in them that is free. If you want to refill any other kind of beverage, you have to have this special cup that like alerts the machine that you're allowed to refill it. Very high tech. We did not buy any beverages except for a bottle of water for each of us on the very first day. And then we just kept refilling those bottles over and over and over. And almost every ride we were allowed on with those bottles shoved in my deep biker short pockets. There was one ride on
Nice.
the third day that we had already ridden with those waters in our pockets that the gentleman said, you need to throw those empty bottles away. And I said, sir, I have been keeping these bottles in my pocket all week and gone on every ride, including
I'm
this ride.
very bonded to these bottles.
We used those bottles to death. They were so crinkled up, it was ridiculous. But it was perfect because we each had one. We didn't have to get out of line. We didn't have to lock them up. We could refill them all over the place. It was cold water. It didn't taste weird. It was everything you needed, and you did not have to keep buying $6 bottles of water over and over and over, and you didn't have to lock up your reusable water bottle every single ride, which is what you would have had to do, which would have been super annoying. If you have a family member coming who's not going to ride or who's going to babysit a stroller or there's some kind of rotation, then I would say bring your big old Hydro Flask or Owala or Stanley or whatever you use and just refill those, because it's definitely, you can hold more. You won't have to stop and refill as often. But if every single one of you is riding, this was a huge game changer in terms of just making sure you're not getting dehydrated. We also spent a lot of time popping into gift shops to experience a little air conditioning. And there is one gift shop, and I feel like I don't even want to tell people this because I feel like it's going to ruin it.
No gatekeeping the secrets.
In the Dr. Seuss land, there is a gift shop attached to one of the little kid Dr. Seuss rides, the one that goes through the Cat in the Hat storybook. If you walk through this gift shop, there is this little alcove where it is the exit of the Dr. Seuss ride. And there's all this space, and it is ice cold and kind of dark. And you can sit on the floor there, off in a corner. You're in nobody's way. You're not in the gift shop. You're not in the way of the exit. It was so peaceful and so quiet and so cold. And we spent a lot of time there. We took food and sat in there and ate it. We like took our dehydration breaks when we all thought we were going to pass out. We went back to that spot over and over and over. And I was like, this is such a hack because there is
Such a
nowhere.
good sensory break spot, too, for kids who get overstimulated and just a really calming zone.
It really was. And it was not created for that purpose, but it was perfect because you can't just plop down on the floor in the middle of a gift shop. And it's 1,000,000 degrees outside, and all of the seating areas are outside. And it was just the perfect spot if you're not opposed to sitting on a floor. And it wasn't like a gross floor, it was a fine floor to sit on. It was an indoor floor. So,
listen, if you are opposed to sitting on a floor from time to time, then a theme park is probably not your jam because it is like germ overload.
100%. So, those are some of my best tips in terms of like what to bring, what to do for heat and exhaustion. And I mentioned these biker shorts multiple times, but I truly believe that these deep pocket biker shorts were a game changer. They're long enough to have the deep pockets, short enough that I wasn't feeling like overheated because I was wearing like long capris or long pants. And those pockets just came in to play like the entire trip. Also,
Yeah,
I
that
brought
sounds like a great tip.
a lot of liquid IV and I put it in my fanny
Yes.
pack and we dumped it into our water bottles over and over and over.
My favorite.
Yes, we did not
You
want
know, I
migraines.
wanted to say that. When you were talking about the water bottles, in my head, I was literally thinking, ooh, I would have electrolyte packets. I would probably also have a few. One of my new finds is little Crystal Light packets that have caffeine, only like 60 milligrams of caffeine, but a nice little bit so that throughout the day, if you need a little caffeine to jumpstart you, rotate through your liquid IV and your Crystal Light with caffeine packets to give you a boost and stay hydrated.
Absolutely. That is a game changer. I like the liquid IV with caffeine in it, but I only use half a pack on those because it's too much. If I have the full one, I get a
I'm
little
so
jittery.
weird. I'm so bonded to my flavor that I haven't actually had, even though I've had a lot of liquid IV, I haven't had the ones with caffeine in them. So I may need to go out on a limb and try some new ones. It's hard. You have to, it's kind of expensive to buy new flavors to try.
Costco.
You know, you don't want to spend all that money unless you're really sure you're going to like the flavor.
Yes, but Costco will let you return it if you don't like it. So,
oh, really?
you can take back
I didn't think
anything that
about
you've
that.
opened and tried. They'll take it back. They don't ask any questions. And the yuzu
Well, there you
pineapple
go.
is the one with energy that I like. So just saying.
Good to know. Talking about old people things.
Oh yeah.
What about if you get motion sick? Because sometimes theme parks are not my favorite. I go to them because my family loves them, but I am very quick to be like, I'll stay outside with the toddler because I do get motion sick. So are there any rides? And with some of these theme park rides, especially at Universal, they're not so much a traditional roller coaster as it is like a video experience, but those can mess you up and really make you motion sick. So which one should you maybe avoid if that's a big struggle for you?
I feel nauseous just talking about this. Okay, because my motion sickness is a real, true, horrible thing that I am plagued with. So I did everything I could in advance to prepare myself for this. I had Bonine, I had Dramamine, I had Zofran, like a prescription for nausea. I had the motion sickness patches, and I also bought these little pressure point bracelets from Amazon that supposedly like stimulate a nerve on your wrist that helps with motion sickness. I have no idea which combination of these things worked, but in general, I was taking Bonine ahead of time. I didn't take Zofran unless I was nauseous. I put the patches on every morning and I wore the wristbands, and I did pretty good. There are 3 rides that I would say avoid at all costs if you have bad motion sickness. One is the Jimmy Fallon in New York ride. One is the Simpsons ride, and one is the Hogwarts Castle ride. And all 3 of these rides incorporate screens and a shifting car of some sort that you are in. And even covering my eyes through 90% of these, I was violently nauseous after each one of these.
Oh,
Zofran is
gosh.
the only
Oof.
reason I did not hurl my guts up. Okay. Sorry if that's TMI. I would not. I would not do it. And they do say motion, like you can look on the app and it will tell you if it's like a motion simulator ride that you should avoid. But some of them say that, and I was fine.
Yeah, and they're
Probably
okay.
because of the interventions. These are the
Yes, for
three
sure.
that were just so intense with the visual and kind of the rocking and turning and jolting of these cars that it was so much worse than even things on these big old tracks going upside down and going up in loops and dips and that stuff. I was okay. I just don't know what it is about the screen and movement combination that did not work for me.
Yeah,
So
it'll mess you up. It'll mess you up
it
fast. And then
will.
it's hard to recover
Mm-hmm.
throughout your day. You want to keep enjoying things, writing things with the kids, but once you get to that
Yep.
point of, ugh, it's just, you can't go back.
You can't. And so I definitely want people to be prepared. So that is my best tip in terms of that because oh boy, that it really ruins things for a couple of hours. Zofran works, but not that fast. So
Yeah, not that fast. Well, what are some last tips that you can leave people with? I will say the one tip that you kind of already mentioned about City Walk, I found that the same when we went to Universal Orlando, not Universal Orlando, when we went to Universal Studios Hollywood earlier this year. We got there kind of early, but not necessarily on purpose. We got there early and I thought, okay, we're going to wait a long time. And I was surprised that they scanned our tickets and let us into what I guess is the equivalent kind of that City Walk area before the park itself opened.
Yep.
So don't think that, okay, they open at 8, so we'll park like at 7:50 and then walk to the gate. No, by 7:50, you could already be scanned in and like closer
Yep.
to the rides because out in Hollywood in California, everyone wants to get to the Mario World.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time it was actually time for the park to open, we had already walked really far in towards the Super Mario World, and I had gone in one of those shops. I bought the little things that look like a watch that you can use for all the rides at the Mario Land, kind of like
Yep.
the shops that you mentioned, the Voodoo Donuts. There are things that you can go in before truly the park opens. So I love that tip. Get there a little earlier than you think. What other tips could you give us? Was 4 days a good amount of time?
Mm-hmm. Yes. 4 days to me was the sweet spot because, as I said, first day was like ride some rides, formulate a plan. Second day was like hit the ground running, be there, open to close, ride all of the most popular rides and everything we wanted to do together. Our third day, reride the things we really, really loved as single riders, which cut the wait time in half. So the way a single rider line works is that you are not getting seated with your friends. You are getting seated with a party that is maybe an odd number and they have an open seat. So I rode single rider for for the Hagrid's motorbike, which is the really, really popular one. And that took me about 35 minutes when it said the full time to wait in that line. The regular line was over an hour. So that's just,
Beautiful.
yeah, that's an
Half the time.
example of doing that. Now, the girls felt a little nervous about single rider. They didn't like the idea of sitting with people they didn't know. They did do it a couple of times and it wasn't as bad as they thought. And one time they actually got seated together. I don't even know how that happened, but they were thrilled with that.
Oh,
So,
fun.
yeah, but that allowed us to, we had already experienced these rides together. And if we loved them that much, we could try them again without as much of a time commitment, which was great. And so, what we had also done throughout the course of the 4 days is as we'd gone in shops and they'd eyeballed the souvenirs that they loved and the things they wanted to spend their fun money on because they each had some fun money to spend, we made lists of the things that they liked and which shops they were located in. And we did not buy anything until day 4. Day 4, we rode
Wow.
any
That's
last.
impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I said, first of all, you have limited money. You don't want to be impulsively buying things and then you're out of money and then you see something else you want. So we were really able to, they formulated a plan with their money. And then we waited until we had ridden everything we wanted to ride, finished up any last minute riding on day 4. And then we just did shopping the last half of our day. And the funny thing that happened is we were actually supposed to stay Saturday night and come home Sunday, but we were so tired and we were done early enough. We did all our shopping and we found a flight home Saturday night, kind of late Saturday night. And because it was Southwest and our flight times had changed, we were all able to rebook to that Saturday night flight, which was way more expensive than our flight home on Sunday, free of charge. Because the way Southwest works right now, if they change your flight even by 2 minutes, you can change flights for free up to 2 times. So I did lose
And
out.
not even just the same day. Like
Yeah,
you said, it can be days before or days after your
exactly.
originally booked flight.
Exactly. So in some ways, I lost out on some Hyatt points because we didn't stay the night, but we still had our hotel room all the way until we wanted to leave Sunday night, which meant we came back, we packed, we took a nap, we were able to rest until we had to go to the airport. And so I wouldn't have been able to do that if we had to check out at 10 a.m. So even though I didn't stay the full night,
Yes.
I didn't feel like I lost any points. And it was like 9,500 points. And I just felt like that wasn't so bad for having the space to rest and relax before we went home. So we ended up coming home late Saturday night, just completely exhausted. But Saturday day at the theme park was great because we rode a few things and then we just shopped and it was fun. And I feel like people need, if
I
people
love
are
that.
souvenir people, they need that day.
I love that you made the girls budget. That's a really good life skill. Don't just see and buy things. They had to really think about it. And I also, like you mentioned, with that last day being so chill, I love when you go to Disney or go to Universal, sometimes you have no other choice, but we're doing it in one day, like wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, we're doing everything. But that's so much
It
and
is.
so overwhelming. I love when you do have that luxury of let's spread it out over a couple days, take our pace, get the lay of the land the first day, go hardcore the next day, and then chill one day and go shopping. I love that you can do that. So I think when you do have time to spread it out, usually those extra days are cheaper.
Yep.
The more days you buy,
Correct.
they give you a significant discount and make it cheaper. And then you can go at a more leisurely pace. It's super worth it, especially if you have small kids that need naps in the afternoon.
Yep. There's always deals. Currently, the deal for Universal Studios is buy 3 days, get 2 days free. In my opinion, 5 days is probably too many. I don't know. That's just me. We were so exhausted at the end of 4 days. So I thought the buy 2 days, get 2 days free was really nice, but I haven't seen that deal since we did that, since I booked that, which I think I booked in January, and that deal ran through the end of March, I believe. So maybe it's a rotational thing that comes out regularly. Definitely keep your eyes on that. For anybody who loves Harry Potter, the way that I love Harry Potter, I truly cried walking into Harry Potter World. I had no concept from the videos that I had seen online just how real it would look. You
Aww.
feel like you are there. And it is magical, full body goosebumps, such an incredible experience, which is why, even if you're not riding things, Universal is thrilling. It's thrilling, which it made it so fun to have a day to walk around and explore and shop.
Okay, so let's talk about food a little bit because food on vacation or on family trips, I should call it, when you're traveling with children, food can be very expensive. This is one of the biggest reasons that I hate when people in the points and miles world say, unless it's an all-inclusive trip that
Mhm.
you truly booked all on points and your Southwest flights all on points. I hate when people say it's free travel or it's nearly free travel. If you're in Orlando for a week and you're paying for food, then that adds up quickly. So tell us some of the ways that maybe you saved money on food, and you did talk about refilling water bottles, which is a huge tip because you
Massive.
have to stay hydrated. that, when you're paying $6, $7 a pop for drinks, that adds up very quickly. So I love that about refilling water bottles. What are some other tips to save money on food, and maybe tell us some of the restaurants that are actually worth it
Mhm.
versus some that, you know what? Don't waste your money here. Think of other ways to spend your money.
Absolutely. Food was really our only cost besides a little bit of transportation, and it was high. When I went back and looked at how much we spent on food afterwards, I was like, holy cow. I think we did pretty good, but still, everything is twice what it costs out in the normal world. So you already know we did free breakfast and loaded up on that. And so that meant everything else we did was really in the park. One night for dinner, we ordered Chipotle. I think we did Uber Eats, and I had a credit um, from my
Yeah, the Amex
Amex.
Gold credit.
Yeah. So,
That's great.
$10, it cut down on that a little bit. Another night, we ate food from the hotel, which is average and overpriced. They have wings, they have a burger, they have a salad. It's fine. It's not great, and it's way too expensive. So, if you can find stuff around the area that you want to order in, unfortunately, there was nothing super close that we could walk to and pick up. I kind of was looking at a map, trying to see if there was any way we could cut out having to get in an Uber. Ultimately, it seemed cheaper to just have someone deliver dinner to us. And most of the time, we just ended up eating late in the park and having that kind of push us through. And then I had snacks that I bought ahead of time and brought with on the plane that we had in our hotel room. And we would just kind of snack in the evenings. So, the portions at Universal Studios and most of the places are huge. And although you think you might be starving and that you might eat a whole portion yourself and you might not want to share delicious food with anybody, I would recommend starting out sharing. And then if you're still hungry, go back and get more. Because I would say on the first day we made this mistake and each of us bought food and nobody finished it. And what you're
Ugh,
not
and that is
doing,
so painful.
oh, Oh, it's so painful when you pay so much for something and then you see it go in the garbage can because what are you going to do with it? Carry around a to-go box? No, you're not. You're not. There's nowhere to put it. You're not buying a locker for your leftover food. So that was painful. Um we did more sharing on the last few days in the park than obviously the first day. What made this food cost a little more manageable is that I accidentally had the Chase Freedom Flex at the time when it had the multiplier on restaurants and eating out.
Excellent.
And that multiplier was an additional 5x. It was already getting 2x. So when I went back and looked at my earnings statement, I earned 7x points on every bit of food that I bought at Universal Studios.
Certainly takes the sting out of it a little
Sure
bit.
did. That was beautiful, and it was accidental. But if you can line up your trip with some kind of a great bonus category like that, or you have an Amex Gold and you're getting 4x times points on your dining, it doesn't hurt quite as much. In terms of food that I would very, very, very much recommend, Voodoo Donuts is amazing. They have so many types of donuts to choose from, and they are delicious. There's a donut for everybody. I'm not even a huge donut person. And I really enjoyed the blueberry cake donut. I think the kids enjoyed the Captain
Mm.
Crunch donut. You can look them up online and look at their types ahead of time. They are in City Walk, and the line gets very long once they open. But if you get there a couple minutes before they open, you can get right inside. I have a fun reel about it because the way that you pick out your donuts from this little rotational um, thing, I don't even know what to call it, is very cool. I'll go back to my Instagram and check out the reel of Voodoo Donuts because it's just a fun experience in general. It's a fun shop. Inside the park, in Dr. Seuss World, there is a little green eggs and ham restaurant, and they have tots. They have buffalo chicken tots. They have barbecue tots. It is tots with toppings. And
all the tots.
oh my gosh, they are so good. The buffalo chicken tots rocked my world. It is a pile of crispy tots with chicken, buffalo sauce, and ranch and green onions. And it is not healthy by any stretch of the imagination, but goodness gracious.
You aren't at the theme park to be healthy,
Correct.
girl. You eat your tots.
Correct. Absolutely. And they were so good. But again, like so rich, so filling, totally splittable. You don't need to eat one all by yourself. I don't think most people could eat one all by themselves. It's very rich. There is
Try me. Try me.
Well, let's go back together and do it. It'll be fun. There is a little crepe cart, and I cannot remember what it's called, but it's the only one like it. And it's right when you come in the entrance to Universal Orlando side of the park, and you go down the old Hollywood Boulevard, which is very fun. By the way, it's built to look like old Hollywood back in the day. It's got the sidewalk with the stars on it, but as if it were, 60 or so years ago. There's a Marilyn Monroe out there that you could take pictures with, and a Betty Boop. And it's very, very fun. And at the end of this stretch, there is a crepe cart, and they have sweet crepes and they have savory crepes. Both are amazing. There's like the strawberry Nutella crepe, and you get to watch them make the crepe from the dough, fill it with all the stuff, fold it over, and you get this big ol' huge, like half the size of your head crepe that you eat kind of like a burrito. And
I love crepes.
oh my gosh, so good. And they have
such a crepe person.
They have a barbecue crepe that has different meats in it, and then cheese and crispy potato straws and a sauce. And it's all inside this delicious savory crepe. And again, it is huge. Most people cannot eat one all by themselves. It is a good sharing item if you are with somebody who you don't mind taking bites off of the same burrito style food. I am not a germaphobe by any stretch of the imagination. I'm like, oh, you just put that in your mouth. We'll put that in my mouth too. So I guess think about that. Maybe you could ask them to cut it in half if you were weird about that. I don't know. I didn't really think that through. The other thing that I absolutely loved was the pasties or pasties. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. They're in Diagon Alley in Harry Potter World. You can get them at the shop where you get the butter beer, kind of the main one, right? When you come to Diagon Alley, you'll know it when you see it. They have chicken pasties. I want to say pasty.
Let's just call it what it is, because when you're saying pasties, I am a very clean cut person, and I'm still going to a funny place when you're saying pasties.
Correct. So I know what you're thinking of, but it's just that I'm pretty sure when I remember watching the movies, I'm pretty sure the British pronunciation is pasty and the American pronunciation is pasty. So I'm going to go with pasty just to avoid the connotation of a pasty. I'm still not totally certain I'm right, but they are almost like an empanada, but instead of kind of a southwestern flavor on the inside, they're a little more herby. I don't know what's in them. The chicken one feels like it might be like chicken and maybe some sweet potatoes and herbs and onions. I don't know. The beef one might have some carrots in there. It's very hard to tell because it's all cooked down together inside this flaky crust that's sealed, kind of like a little chicken pot pie handheld. I loved these things. I went back multiple times for these things. And these, you get 2 or 3 of them, depending on whether you're doing beef or chicken. And they are just so shareable and like as a little snack. And they weren't that expensive. And it was easy to go back and get them a couple times. And they were my favorite thing that I ate. They were warm and comforting and delicious, which you might not think you want something warm and comforting on a hot day, but still it like was delightful. And those were the main things that we ate that I felt like were great. There wasn't anything we ate that I felt like was bad, but there were just the rest of the stuff was just We got a pizza in Jurassic Park World. It was fine. We got a Caesar salad in there. It was fine. It was all just theme park, fine, not
Right. Right.
memorable. It just would tie you over. One thing I really enjoyed was throughout the park, there were places you could get fresh pineapple and fresh watermelon in little ice cold containers.
Ooh.
And it was about $6. You got a decent sized bucket of fruit, and it came with a packet of tahini if you wanted to sprinkle the seasoning, that's like spicy lime seasoning on top of the fruit, which was really nice, really refreshing. We did that multiple times as a snack to hold us over. We all would just sit there and kind of share a container of fruit. And that was really, really nice on a hot day. So those are my best tips in terms of food. What we thought was really delicious, kind of best way to save money is to share and hopefully get a multiplier on those points. And like I said,
Now, for you,
yeah.
I know you packed really, really light.
Mhm.
So you may not have done this,
Yes.
but can you bring in any
Yep.
food? If you want to bring in, especially little snack items, applesauce
Yep.
pouches, a couple things here and there, especially if you have young children. And sometimes you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to sneak anything in, trying to follow the rules here, but do we need to sneak something in? Or can we just openly be allowed to take food
This
in?
is a great question. You can bring food in. You can bring in really whatever you want. Your water bottles have to be empty, or I believe brand new and sealed, but I could even be wrong about that. Double check the water bottle thing before you go, but you can bring in food. You could bring in whatever you want. Just keep in
Really?
mind, yes, it's totally different than Six Flags. Here at Six Flags, you can't bring in anything. If you want to eat at Six Flags, you got to go out to the parking lot and get your cooler out of your trunk and have a little parking lot picnic. Universal Studios, you can bring in food, which is so cool for families and people trying to save money that way. For me, it was just, if we bring in food, what do we bring in food in? What are we carrying it in? And where are we putting that? And I did not want to spend the money
Right.
on lockers all day, having to go back and forth. This place is huge. You got your food in one locker and then you hiked halfway across the park and then you got to hike halfway back to get your food out of a locker. I don't know. That wasn't the experience I wanted. If I was a family,
I'm still in
you
toddler
are. So you
world,
have
so
a
I still have a
stroll. Mhm.
stroller. We, put stuff in the stroller. I'm probably not going on most of the rides because I'm staying with the
Yeah.
toddler who's not big enough to go on the rides.
Exactly. If I had a family dynamic like that and there was a parent who is always available to hold the stuff, this probably would have operated a little bit differently. So definitely keep that in mind because that is something you can do. And what a game changer to just be able to eat your own food in the park. Like, two thumbs up if that's the way that you can do things.
2 thumbs up for that.
Yes.
Yeah.
For us, I already planned on spending the money on food. I had budgeted for it. Still, was it more than I thought it was going to be? Yes, it was. But that's okay. That's okay. Um it was worth it, and it was delicious to try some of the fun like viral things you see on the internet. So that was the experience on the food. Overall, I'm going to say my my best tip for this is to not be afraid to spend your points. You are earning points for a reason. You know that we say earn and burn. Overall, for what was a 6-day trip for hotel, flights for 3 people, universal tickets for 2 people, I ended up spending 182,000 points, 182,914 points to be exact. And that is a lot of points. Okay? That's a lot. But like I said at the top of last week's episode, it was about $3,000 in value. And I think I did a little math to kind of see like what that came out to in terms of cents per point, which I hadn't done before. It looks like I got, if you're averaging it across all the methods, about 1.6 cents per point. Is it our best redemption of all times in terms of value? No. We know that in many cases you can get way more cents per point than that. But this trip was epic. It was memorable. It was amazing. It was a bonding experience. We had so much fun. And never in my entire life would I just have $3,000 to drop like that. plus the cost of food. It's more with what I actually spent out of my pocket. So,
and you know what 1.6 cents per point is better than? 1 cent per
yes,
point,
ma'am.
which is what most people are getting back when they are cashing
Mm-hmm.
in credit card points for cash.
Yeah.
That's what people have to understand with points and miles. Your points can go so much further when you use them for travel. We know just standard in the travel portal, you get 1.25 cents per point if you have a Chase Sapphire Preferred, 1.5 if you have Chase Sapphire Reserve. You can stretch it. Please don't. I mean, like we said, we don't judge point redemptions here
Mm-hmm.
because everybody needs to do what works best for them, what is for their family. When you don't want to pay for something out of pocket, you just truly don't want to pay for something out of pocket, and it is valuable to use points. But you can get so much more than 1 cent per point back that people cash in credit card points all the time for, and it's just sad to think about what you're missing out on, the value that you're missing out on.
Really, really true. Don't feel pressure from the points and miles community online to not book something just because of the quote unquote value. Because this was absolutely worth it for me. What it probably was that I cashed in for this, it was probably 2 ink bonuses about because I got both of my ink cards back when they had the 90,000 point offer each. So there are always more offers to be had. There's always earning to be done. It's a steady stream that can keep replenishing itself. So you don't have to be afraid to do the spending. And I'm so glad that I did. There was no part of me that regretted spending this many points, even though it was a lot and it wiped me out for a while. That was back in June that we went on this trip. Most of the spending happened earlier in the year. I am already back to being about that same amount in terms of replenishment. So it's okay. Do it. Do the spending. And I think the last thing that I want to leave you with is not quite universal related, but I mentioned last week that when we arrived, we went and spent the day in Disney Springs. And you might not know what Disney Springs is, but it kind of reminds me of City Walk, but it's the Disney version. Although it's not attached to the park, some people refer to it as downtown Disney. It has all the Disney themed shops. It's got restaurants. It's a very cute place to spend half a day. And it was the perfect place to store our bags and to go hang out while we waited for our room to be ready and to maybe see if we wanted to do any Disney shopping, even though we weren't really there for Disney. It was very, very cute, very fun to walk around in. I did not spend any money. My daughter did buy a few Disney things, if I remember correctly. One thing I would say: don't eat at the Rainforest Cafe. I had never been to a Rainforest Cafe. I know they're all over. We should have gone to maybe one of the things that was unique to Disney Springs, but they wanted to eat in the volcano. And it does have a very cool volcano on the outside that goes off. And they said, we want to eat in there. It was super overpriced. The food was not great. And the experience inside was much more for younger kids, I think. The way that, once every 30 minutes or so, the lights get dark and there's a thunderstorm. And it just was not I actually super regretted the amount of money we spent eating there. So I would like to say
that's your one do differently
100%
next
is my
time.
only regret from our entire trip. The other thing we did that day was walked across the street to the outlet mall, across from the hotel, across from Hyatt Place. It takes about 15 minutes to walk there. You do have to cross some busy streets, but there are crosswalks and lights for everything. And we were able to go to a few outlet stores at the mall, which was fun for them. Juliet got a really cool Coco shirt at one of the Disney outlets there, and she loves Coco. Great movie. And then we went into a fun little bath and body type store where they could make their own candles, they could make their own like layered whipped soaps. Like it was just like a fun little girl type shop, and they both got stuff from there. So there are ways to kill non-theme park time in the area.
Oh, yes.
And I'm sure there's even more than that. We just, our main focus was Universal. We didn't put that much work into figuring out other things we could do. But I'm sure you could build out quite the itinerary in the area surrounding that hotel. So I think
to be able to be in middle school and go with your best friend. You live in St. Louis. To be able to go to Orlando, Florida with your best friend to Universal is an absolute dream come true. I mean, that's like a movie.
yes.
To take your best friend on a trip with you to Universal, what an incredible, special experience that they will absolutely remember for the rest of their lives. Thank you, Points and Miles.
Seriously.
How awesome.
Seriously, I kept reminding them. I was like, guys, this is not real life, okay? We are not wealthy 1%ers over here. We are average middle class Midwest family that works real hard and would never be able to do this. So I just kept reminding them to be grateful and enjoy the moments and not assume I was made of money and ask me to buy all kinds of extras, because the answer was no, you've got your own money. You spend it where you want it, and don't ask me for anything extra. So I had to lay my foot down there a couple times, but I would have given anything for that experience as a kid. Anything. And that's just not something that's in the cards for most people. And it is all because of Points and Miles. So I hope that this two-parter has really, really helped you guys in terms of putting together a Universal trip for your family. I hope that there's some stuff in here that helps you go in super prepared and have the most amazing stress-free experience possible, because I think theme parks can be pretty stressful. And I do want to say that we learned that Universal Studios is accessible in terms of handicap accessibility. Our friend Jennifer did tell us there is a program you can contact ahead of time that will help you get access to the rides and everything you need if you are bringing somebody in a wheelchair. But I want to say that I did not feel that the shuttle was handicap accessible. I saw people carry on a stroller. I did not see evidence that there was any kind of a ramp. And I don't know where you would even put a wheelchair because it was so cramped in there. And it was hard enough to kind of get a stroller in there. It was kind of the last thing that had to come on. It blocked the aisle. It was not something I felt like was accessible. If you were doing that, you might have to get your own car, but it wouldn't cost that much. It's probably a $7 ride to the theme parks if you had to take an Uber or take a Lyft. So last little thought there, just because we always want to be thinking in terms of accessibility. But as the trip of a lifetime, I would be happy to answer any questions for anyone who's trying to copy this or replicate this. I'm sure there's things I've forgotten. So if you have specific questions, DM me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland. And I hope you enjoyed this one.
I think that people have. Universal is fantastic and such a wonderful experience for families and everybody. Well, not everybody. I shouldn't say that. I should never say everybody, but so many people want to make that trip at least once when they have young kids. And so I love that you've helped break it down and help people see that with credit card rewards, it can be a possibility if you never previously thought that it was a possibility for your family. It could be.
Absolutely.
It could be.
And now I just have to do it again for Disney because the girls have asked, when are we going to Disney next? So stay tuned. Maybe that's coming up next June. We'll just have to see. Thank you guys for tuning in for last week and for this week. We know this turned into a very long two-parter, so we hope that you are okay with us splitting it into two pieces because, almost 2 hours is a long time to sit through an episode, and we love you too much to force you to do that. So we appreciate all of you. Don't forget to rate and review and subscribe and follow us all the places, and we will see you here next time.
Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed this show today, please consider writing us a review or clicking 5 stars wherever you listen to your podcasts. And please subscribe and follow along so that you never miss an episode.
You can follow the podcast on Instagram or YouTube at Wonderland on Points Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Family Travel for the Win with the number 4.
And you can find me on Instagram at Points to Wonderland.
If you're thinking about getting a new Travel Rewards credit card, consider using the links in our show notes. Using our links helps to support us and keep our podcast going so we can provide you with all the latest tips and tricks when it comes to traveling on points.
And if you aren't sure which card is right for you, shoot us an email at wonderlandonpoints@gmail.com, and we would be happy to walk you through a free card consultation. That's also a great place to send us all of your comments and questions. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you here next time.